So, now we start with our next session. After hearing that we change some things in the rules for the next year, you also learned that we changed some things in the statics, especially in the or only in the cost report, mainly only in the cost report for the coming year. And Sebastian Hoppe will now tell you what this is exactly. And yeah, stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here again in Abstatt. Yeah, as you already heard, we have some quite made. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. Yeah, as you already heard, we have a new setup. So we have managed to think about not only the new rules for making it easier for you to have one document. No, we only thought, okay, when changing the rules, we can change a few of the intentions of the cost report, because we had a lot of problems there. First of all, we don't want to have any more faking. Let's say like best use of Photoshop award or something like this, or best use of some of the teams just had a hub, and of course they used laser cutting for the pre-cutting and then only milling a few millimeters or decimeters of aluminium. Yeah, of course you don't produce your hub like this. Yeah, but for the cost report it was the cheapest version, and we don't want this. Yeah, you learn nothing. Perhaps sometimes in the automotive industry, between OEM and supplier, yes, there is some cost breakdown. Yeah, but you don't know. You don't need to use Photoshop. You need to explain the costs, and therefore we want to have more focus on cost and manufacturing knowledge, and that you show that you have this, and that you have learned that there are differences between the prototype production and the mass production. And therefore we have changed the cost setup a bit, and therefore I want to bring you all a brief overview today. We will start with the objective of our cost and manufacturing event, with the procedure, where nothing so much changed. You always will be at the bay, in the base, in the marquee above pits. Yeah, that's the same. So nothing total new, but the content will be new. And of course we have some cost report documents, and the documents have also changed. So we go through the BOM, the C BOM, so we already have some costs in there, yes, but not for the whole car. We have a supporting material file, like you all know, and we have now a cost explanation file. And of course I will give you some brief introduction to the scoring. So start with the objectives. And of course in the end we have time enough for having a question and answer session, because I'm sure that there will be questions. Yeah. So what is our main objective? Yeah, we have objective that the teams have to understand the manufacturing process of their prototypes. And the prototypes are the cars, the race cars you are presenting to us. And you have to know how to produce them and how they are built up. So of course you need a BOM. The BOM is a tool which you will use in your later career in automotive industry. So there's nothing like recreated just to make a lot of input data from all the teams, yeah, to make you use of Excel. No, it is something you really need to know, because you have to think about how your car will look like before you build it. Yeah? And therefore it is really important to get a total structure of your car. And of course the cost associated with this build of the prototype has also been in the calculation of your team, because you have a budget. Yeah? So therefore we saw that we will guide you a bit through the cost event, that we tell you, think before you build. Yeah? Not only with the engineering side, yeah, because for the design event, yeah, you design your car, but you also have to be careful with your resources you have, like manufacturing resources, like costs you have to use. And of course, therefore, there will be a lot of trade-offs between content and costs, because some of the teams say, okay, yeah, I like to have a monocoque or something like this, but I don't have the money to buy carbon fiber. This could be a trade-off. Yeah? And this is not only something you have to present to the design report judges, this is something for the cost report judges too. Yeah? So make or buy decisions. Perhaps you are in an area where you have a lot of casting companies. Of course, you use a lot of parts are casted then perhaps at your car, because you have a lot of sponsors who will do the casting. But this will be something different in a mass production car. It's the same with machining. I would guess in a mass production you will not machine your hubs or your uprights. Yeah? You will cast them because it's a different production system. And therefore this was not matching with the old cost report rules, where you try to get everything down to 1,000 cars. Yeah? And this is something where we want to have a focus. And the procedure will be more or less the same. You will have to do some uploads of some documents prior to the event, prior to Hockenheim. The details, which document it is, will be later, and in the competition handbook, there will be the deadlines. But I can tell you up front, there will be no addendum. Yeah? So we want to reduce the document, the amount of documents you want to have. But be sure, we don't want you to have everything ready 6 months or 5 months prior to the event. So the deadline for the cost report will be 2 weeks before Hockenheim. So you have to, so there is no need for addendum then. And of course, we have a discussion at the car in the marquee above pits. And this is the discussion part 1, let's say it like this. It's a bomb discussion. And this is like the old event. Yeah? We have planned something around 20 minutes for this. And in this 20 minutes, you show the judges your car, and the judges ask you regarding your bomb. Yeah? Do you have every part listed in your bomb? Do you have every part in your costed bomb? Yeah? So do you have sufficient production, and the processes you need have shown this? And at least what we want to have there, we want to have a discussion with a team, and not with only one person. I know that a lot of teams have a big team also for cost report, but we had in the past one sadly team where there was one team member at the marquee above pits at the car for the cost event, and this is something we don't want to see anymore. So it is in the rules that you have to have the documents ready for having inspection with at least 2 judges at the same time. So there must be a team when it is not only one person event. And this is something you need to have more people there for cost event because of the cost understanding. And the discussion with the judges is more in this second part of the discussion, of the event discussion, will be more like on the design event. But you have another focus. You have not focus on the design of your car. You will focus on the differences in the cost and manufacturing of the prototypes and not of the design. And therefore, we have made a list of possible topics to give you some hints what we want to talk about with you. And there might be some topics like differences between prototype and mass production, resources and cost planning, financial and production risk management, make or buy decisions, environmental influence of the vehicle production. Yeah? So do you think about a CO2 footprint or something like this, effectiveness of financial planning? And I know that those might be just some keywords for some people of you. That's why I made a bit an explanation of this. And difference between prototype and mass production. Like I already mentioned up front, a lot of teams doing a production like perhaps they machine their uprights or their hubs. Yeah, this is normal for a prototype. But in a mass production, you would never do 10,000, 20,000 hubs by machining. You will not do this because it's much too expensive. But to know this and why you have to do this and what is the cost influence, that is what we want you to learn, because that is what you need afterwards in the automotive industry. Resource and cost planning. Of course, you normally should calculate during the season, during your manufacturing process of your car, something like your actual cost versus planned cost. Because you have a budget perhaps for your frame, you have a budget for your suspension or your chassis. And of course, you have to calculate and see, like you will always have some budgets and cost planning later on, and you should learn for your future work. And how did your team choose between different manufacturing opportunities? Yeah, of course it could be, and this is something very reasonable. When you tell us, yes, we had a big sponsor who said, okay, there's no problem, we can machine for you 5 or 6 very complex parts out of a 5-axis CNC machine. Yeah, this is something which is a reason, and this is a good reason for a team to use this. Yeah, but you have to think about cost-wise, is this something you want to do in the future for a mass production or not? And how do you choose between, is it worth to take this machine for perhaps for the hub or for upright? Or is it better to have it as a machining of some casted parts for the engine or something like this? Yeah, you have made some trade-offs there. And this is not something which you don't have done in the past. This is something you all team has done in the past, and you just have to show it to the judges and show the process how you do it. And of course, financial and productive risk management. Did you have something like a buffer? Yeah? Why? Which amount of buffer? For electric vehicle, yeah? Our e-cars, when you have a battery failure, the battery is a very, very expensive part of your car. Did you have a buffer in it? Just a few cells? Why did you decide it? Or did you have enough money in pocket? Or did you have some buffer for high-risk parts or not? How do you grade them? This is something we want to know. What kind of production planning? Do we have a control plan for the production? Not only a quality check after the parts arrive at your workshop, perhaps it's also something like planning how to use the capacity and level them out. Production planning is something which you as a team always do, but show this to the judges, how you have done it. Make or buy decision, your pro and cons. Does the part has influences on your, as much influences on your car when you buy a standard part, or do you want to have a special designed part which you make by yourself? Yeah? This could be some. You already thought about this. Just show it to the judges. Yeah? So we don't want you to have more work like you already do. Just perhaps with these guidelines you structure your thinking and your car would be a better one. Influence and different possibilities for your overall performance and your financial cost. Yeah, this is what I meant with the trade-off. Yeah? You can use a standard part which you can buy for very less money, or you can design a special part for yourself. And as you see, those topics are sometimes in the past have been part of the real case. We will not have any real case anymore. So the time and the efforts you put into the real case, you can use for this one. We don't want to make more and more workload for the teams. We want to reduce the workload, but make it more structured. The environmental influence of the vehicle production could also be something where you can talk with the judges. Yeah? For mass production, did you use overseas production? When you calculate for a mass production, would you use it? Why would you use overseas production? Yeah? Did you consider just the TCO, the total cost of ownership, where you have the transportation costs and the tooling costs and, of course, the piece prices? Did you also mention that this might be an influence with CO2 footprint? What material used for the car? Did you think about the CO2, or did you just say, okay, it's race car, yeah? It doesn't matter for this prototype. That should be no problem, but you have to explain it. And of course, you have to do some thinking, what would you perhaps change for a prototype, between prototype and mass production? Would you do some changes there, and why? And the effectiveness of the financial planning. Did you make some trade-offs up before? You want to have perhaps a fast acceleration car at the competition. This is one of your goals, design goal. You want to be the winner of acceleration event. Yeah, what parts have been influenced? Of course, you show this in the design. Yeah, in the design you show, okay, when we want to be the acceleration winner, we have to have a good engine. The battery should be capable to give enough energy in a short term to the engines, and of course you need to have a lightweight car. You have made some of those trade-offs, and you showed them to the design event. But also this has influences in your costs, because you said, okay, yeah, we make a trade-off. We had a budget of, I don't know, 50,000 euro, and we used a bit more for getting the better engines, and a bit more to reduce the rate. And this is how we control it, if the budget was spent good or not good. Coming to the documents, of course, this is something you already know. We have a BOM, and the BOM, we had already a lot of discussions in the past, or especially in the last 2 or 3 events. Should you use the e-master BOM? We have uploaded an e-master BOM, which should be used from every team, and I would say 75% of the team used it. So it makes it easier for the judges to compare. When you have, for a judge, 10 different teams and you want to compare them, it is much easier when you have the same design for every team. And in the past, there were always teams who said, no, but we have a very good one, our looks much better, and we use it. They got some reduction in the point there, yes, but it doesn't matter. They still say, yeah, our looks better, we use ours. And we don't want this discussion, because it makes a lot of more work for you and for us, and therefore we will have a website tool. So it will be all on the FSG homepage, and we have a given content and free content, of course, something like our systems. We have the 8 systems, like brake system, miscellaneous fit and finish, steering system, suspension and shocks, wheels and tires. You know them all. Those will be given. You cannot do a completely new structure there, because we want to have it easily comparable. And of course, you cannot do this within 1 hour. So we will have a save and load function, and we want to use this in the future to load your old car and just do the adjustments. We don't want you to put everything in there again for the next year. Of course, for the first year car, it will always be a big work, and if you are not competing every year, or the first year car, you still have to do a lot of work at the beginning. But it will be much easier than doing it by yourself. And you can start as early as possible, and you can do changes until the deadline, and the deadline will be 2 weeks prior the event, and then after that you cannot change it anymore. So you have to be sure, start early enough, have everything in there. The tool is still ongoing, so we are not finished it yet, so I cannot show you some live demo of the tool, but it should be ready somehow in January or February at least. So you can start when you know you are registered to the event, and that should be no problem then. We might have, any questions? No. Okay, we might have a CSV upload to make it prepare by yourself up front. And the structure will be like the old structure we have in the old BOM. So we have a BOM, we have the systems, we have assembly, and then we have parts, and with every part you have material and processes in there, and of course fasteners and toolings where it is needed. So the structure will be the same. And so the work you will do here, you can also use for the other events, because you have the same structure. We don't want you not to be able to participate on any other event who is not using this rule and double the work. So you can use this structure, and when you have done a BOM, it is the same system. It will be looking like this. I'm not sure if you can read this very well. It's just showing you something like, for an example, for the brake system. We have also some assemblies, and the assemblies will also be given. So you can choose out of given assemblies, and you can just add an assembly and say, okay, I need a brake fluid, or I don't need it. I would guess most of the team need a brake fluid. Brake disc, more or less the same. If you use a balance bar, I don't know. Calipers, I would guess yes. And it's the same with every assembly. You can go through it, click edit, and then would be add. Then you say, okay, if you have always a command sections where you can add some commands that the judges will understand what you have put in there. You can have then a part make or buy, some comments, the material, another comment column, yeah, then the processes, comments to it, fastness with comments that you say just okay, bolts, but I want to use every bolt in it, and of course the tooling if needed, okay, we have here some casted disc in it, you say casting, 2 cent casting done by student, okay, just as an explanation for the teams, for the judges. At this stage, we don't have any costs in. We are still at the cost event, but we said we don't want to have any faking. We don't want you to say, okay, I would say it is only 5 seconds machining, yes, only 1 screw, and we don't want this anymore. We want to have that you think about the costs. And therefore, of course, there will be some costed ones, but we will have every year only 1 to 2 systems costed. So it could be that in this year only, perhaps, I don't know, the brake system is costed. And then you just have to explain the costs for the brake system. The other ones will not have costs. We will have a complete BOM like this one. Yeah? So the judges will still ask you, how are those brake discs built? And then you say, okay, we have a casting version. Therefore, we need some tooling, we need some fasteners to assemble them perhaps, yeah. We have a grinding on both sides and a water jet cut perhaps, I don't know, and a hand finish or something. Yeah, and you can go through this. So you explain how the parts of your car are made. And this will be for the whole car. But only on a few we will have a C-BOM, like a costed BOM. This is something new. And therefore, we have only 1 to 2 systems to be costed per competition. This will be changed. Yeah? So this year it might be brake system, next year it might be another one. And then you have to add, for everything you have in there, costs. And we don't have any cost tables, so we don't give you numbers that you say, okay, a tooling will always cost this, fastener will always cost that. No, you tell us costs, and there's no maximum limit, and there will be no points for the highest or lowest costs. There will be only costs for realistic. Did you have a good, realistic view of costs? And this is something what is very important, because you design something, even in the future, you will be in some research and development center, you design something, and you have to think about it, what will this cost? What will the cost be like? And this will always be something, because there will always be a limit for your costs. A limit of allowance, how much budget you can spend. And therefore, it is good to know how to estimate those costs. And therefore, assembly and system costs are calculated automatically, of course, yeah. But everything else, for parts, for materials, have to be filled in by you. And because this is something which is very difficult to explain in just a small comment, therefore we have the additional one, the cost explanation file, where you will explain how you calculated your costs. Show the complete costs of the vehicle and explain how you calculate it. And therefore, this would be the same. It's the same as we had before. And I would guess all the files will be published again, like on the old years, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So then you can see this a bit more in detail. We just add assembly costs. We just add part costs, material costs, process costs, and everything else. We just have a few columns more for costs. And therefore, you put the costs in. And you can then just explain a bit. Yeah, those $30 are cutting 2 discs and 20 holes. Therefore, this is a water jet cutting you use. And this is something you put in for every part you make, but only for the ones which are costed. Because on the others, there will no cost column be available on the website too. And therefore, supporting material is the same as the old supporting material. We have drawings, exploded views, pictures of the vehicle to make help the judges to understand your vehicle, to see, okay, this is what they have built, because they don't know it. They control your cost report up front. They have a look there up front. And therefore, those 2 weeks are the limit, because then the judges have to have 2 weeks to prepare. All judges have about 10 to 15 teams. and so they have to go through a list of all the teams, and then they have to have a look in your files, and therefore they don't see your car up front, and therefore explain it with a supporting material file, so that when they see how the part is built, or you have a drawing of the part, they can understand, okay, your processes are correct. And then we have the cost explanation file, as already mentioned. Show you the judges how you calculated the prices in your CBOM. If you have to estimate what, because we don't want to have any invoices in there, we don't want it. Just put the estimation in there. We said, okay, we bought them for the material for 50 euro per ton. I don't know. It's a very 50 euro is not a sufficient price. So that would be a bad explanation. So, but when you take, okay, aluminium, it's always something around 1,200 to 1,500 euro per ton. Okay, this is the base aluminium we used. Okay, that's fine. Just show it. Hourly rates of the machines, of course, this is something, when you know what is in there, you can explain it. And therefore, help the judges to understand your costs. What did you already include? And therefore, just as an example, you can make, at the beginning, you make a list of 5 or 6 different processes to show the judges, okay, our processes are calculated like this. And you say, okay, our 5-axis CNC machining center, we have costs for machining of the machine of $1 million, investment including installation, yeah, fine. Yearly depreciation, 8 years, so 125,000. Yearly maintenance, 50,000. Usage per year, so how many hours does each machine run? So how you calculate it, and then of course some average yearly energy costs, average yearly costs for tool sets. Yeah, like you need some more some different materials you are milling with it, and then you say, okay, total yearly costs are approximately 250,000. Just go ahead. Total cost per hour are then 48 euro. Of course, one operator is needed, $50, so you have 89 machining hour including operator. And then, okay, you said, okay, we are rounding it up 100. In our calculation, we used 100 euro per hour, just as an example. And therefore, you go through the 5 to 6 to 7 different processes. I would guess it's not more that you need for one section, because you have always something machining, some assembly process where you just have some hourly rates for the workers, and you explain it. Some other processes, and then you explain and show with those calculations the judges how accurate your costs are. We are already at scoring. Because of different rules, different setup of the event, we have a different scoring system. We have format and accuracy of the documents and knowledge of documents in the vehicle. This is both 5 points. This is more or less the same points the judges have given you in the past. You don't have the file in the past, but now you see it's 5 points. When you know your vehicle very well, you can get those 5 points. If you don't know them, that was always something in the past where some of the team said, okay, when we are searching for parts and we need to search for the part, I don't know, 20 minutes, we only can control 4 parts, yeah, and therefore we will get more points reduction because we will see more mistakes. That was always some of the complaints by the teams. And also when we have 2 cost reports, of course, they have 2 times looking it up and having a look in the report, they will find a double of mistakes perhaps. We don't want this. This was something already in the past given as a hint to the judges that this is not what we want to. We want to have a look at most of the teams. And of course, if they find then 2 or 3 mistakes, which are more or less both a small one, it was no problem to just 1 mistake, because we have 2 judges looking in 2 reports. That was in the past also, but this makes it a bit more clear for you. Content and completeness of the BOM and CBOM, this is 30 points. Yeah, did you use the file and have every part in there? And the realism of the CBOM is 10 points. So 10 points if your points are, if your calculations are good or not good. And discussion part 2, this is a cost understanding. It's more or less all the points of the real case which are in there, and 10 points of the of the total price. Those are all in the discussion part 2, where we want to get in contact and prove your knowledge of cost understanding. Of course, there will also be some possible deductions, and this is a missing assembly. If you really missed a complete assembly, it's -5 points. A missing part would be 3, and missing process only 1 point. But this is just as an explanation for the judges. And of course, if they see, yes, it's the same like I told before, when you are very fast and you know your documents very fast, and you go through 20 or 30 possible parts with the judges, they will not give you -1 point for every part which is missing, or every fastener. There's no fasteners in there. Of course, when you have always missed a fasteners, then there will be something like a point reduction. But it's not for every fastener which is missing, it's -1 point. The cost understanding, there's the same like on the design report. We have, in general, you can gain up to 50 points if you have a good concept, if you explain it good to the judges, yeah. And of course, we don't can have a ranking in there up front, but we talk to every team. The judges will have contact to every team and will judge every team, and therefore we make a ranking, and therefore the 50 points will be separated between the teams. That what all the news are. So any questions? I would guess there might be some questions. Yes?
Thank you, Sebastian, and I will go around with a mic again.
So how do you ensure the objectiveness in the discussion afterwards?
We will have, like in the past, or it's the same like on the design report, we will have a guideline for the judges. We will have a judge briefing where we have some hints, some guidelines for the judges, what to judge. That is more or less the same. So it will not be, I would guess, not be every 6 possible things in every year. There will only be 1 or 2 perhaps per year, because of the judges that they only can focus all on the same. It's not that they are, it should be the same level for all teams. Therefore, we make a guideline, yeah.
Okay, and will you publish those guidelines?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next question here.
Yes, thank you. Well, you said there may be no changes after the deadline. We all know that there have sometimes to be changes in the car, like in the scrutinying, or if
Scrutinying will always be a point, yeah. But this was the same like in the past. You will get a list of the scrutineers when you have big changes on the car, and of course those you show to the judges, and there will be no deduction of points for this one.
Well, but maybe you have a week before the event that you have to make a big change or a certain change which is not uploaded. How will that be? Was a -5 for missing assembly or something?
This would be then a missing assembly when you have something new there. But if you are just doing something like an aero package on the campground, yeah, that could be. But if you don't have planned the aero package up front, the aero package will have no effectiveness for your car, because you will just put some screws in it and put it on there, and tape it on there. Yeah, but otherwise you have planned it before, because you have made the aero package. Yeah. And then and in the last 2 weeks prior to the event, if there's something really big broken and you have to do something really new, then you are happy enough that the car is running.
Thank you. Thank you. Just another question.
Yeah.
Do you already have certain plans for the driverless and electric cost events?
Yeah, it will be the same event and the same tool. We just will have something like an assembly which is called perhaps actuator, steering actuator or something like this, and sensor package or something like this in the electronics, and then you put everything in there.
Okay.
Because the parts and materials are your free to use and add a part, and we just have some brief package where you can put it in.
Okay. And the last question, if I may ask, do you know when you will publish the themes which have to be shown closer with the costs you said?
For the C-bomb?
Yes.
The C-bomb will be published with the competition handbook.
All right.
So
Thank you.
there will be a section where it says this year's competition C-bomb part is, I don't know, suspension and shocks, frame and body, or something like this. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Other questions?
thank you.
Yeah.
Next one here.
The cost understanding refer to the cost explanation. So you have the CNC machine and also is part for the cost understanding in the second part? Or is this different?
It's more or less on the realism, but it could be when we have on the cost understanding, something like you have to explain the differences between mass and series production. You can use this file also and explain something to the judges. But of course, you can have some handouts and show this to the judges like on the design event. This is no problem.
Okay, and for cost explanation, there's a template or something
No,
online?
it will be a free PDF file for the cost explanation file, like the supporting material, but it's just separated to make it easier what to look for. If you look for drawings, look there, and the other thing there.
Okay, and the last question, maybe 5 judges are in our pit, and we have 2 discussions, yes? Or we must have two discussions. So you need 10 team members, 5 team members, or for every judge a team member? Or
It is like the same on the design report. We don't give you a certain number. We will say, okay, if you have one guy in your team who knows everything, yeah, then he could perhaps handle one judge group by himself, when he can tell something to cost understanding to every of those 5 different spots. This should be no problem. If you have one who's only good for one of those topics because he said, okay, I will just be the expert for differences between perhaps cost and in the mass and the serial production, then of course you need a few more people. We don't want to regulate this.
okay, and maybe the active team members stand outside the pit, so you don't ask him, here, tell me something about the suspension, so you only ask your maybe two team members. I say, I'm the head of cost report, and yeah, you only ask the 2 you will present the cost report, not make to choose an active team member who looks on the cost report. Because we have the problem in Italy that the judges say to an active team member outside the pit here, tell something about the suspension, and he doesn't know anything about the cost report.
That makes totally no sense. Therefore, you have experts in your team, and you just have a driver for driving the car. You don't say, you driving the car. No, it's the same with cost report. It's the same with cost report.
We discuss it later in the feedback. So
it's
okay.
no problem. It's the same with cost report. Of course, you have dedicated team members who are expert in it. Perhaps you have somebody who said, okay, I can help if there is something. Yeah, then he can help. But if you have something, oh, sorry, that was not my task. Yeah, your teams are big enough, so you have specialists for every part. So you might have a specialist for cost report, of course.
Yeah, right. Okay,
no
thank
problem.
you.
So thank you. So it's not planned that we have this kind of element of surprise, like you tell me about the engine or suspension?
No.
No, okay.
The surprise is enough with the content. Huh? What are the questions from the judges, I guess?
That's fine. Do we have more questions to the cost report? Or maybe even to the statics in general?
Yeah, statics in general, perhaps. I don't know. Yeah.
Again, it's only this row here. So you are all the cost guys, and the rest is just here.
I have a more general question concerning the business plan presentation. In the past, it said it's a weekend driver. I did not found this in the new rules. So it's more general now, or? It
should be more general. If there's nothing special in the rules, it's more general.
All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Otherwise, ask a special report to the rules tracker if you want to be very sure, but normally we have to make it clear that we want to have new ideas. Of course, you have to explain what is your intention, but yeah, it's not like the weekend hobby racer for the like in the FSA rules. Yeah.
So we have another one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. The cost explanation file is for explaining the manufacturing of the prototype or of the 1,000 units.
No, only for the car which is there. The cost you have there for the car shown to the judges. And this is where we want to have the cost realism. And therefore is a cost explanation file to show this. And not for, because we don't say anymore it is 1,000 cars, it is just a mass production. It could be 10,000, 100,000, but this is for the second part where you might have a handout or something to show the judges, but the cost explanation file is for the realism of the costs of your C-bomb.
Okay, so for example, a casted part is very, well, expensive in our cost report.
Of course,
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
Okay, thanks.
No cost limit. But of course, you should be able to explain why you use this in the prototype and would you use the same for mass production and why this is perhaps an advantage for mass production or a disadvantage. That is what is in the cost discussion part 2, cost understanding. Any other questions?
Yep,
Yep.
we have one more here.
Regarding the business plan presentation, how important is realism in the business plan? Because there's this option of extending a current company and making it bigger. But if you do this, does it has to be over an existing company, or are you supposed to just make up some numbers about a company and that you want to expand it?
The realism isn't, we have something like our cost scoring sheet. We have this for the business plan presentation too, and it is published in the rules. And of course, realism is something in there. So if you can explain in your 10-minute presentation why, and in your executive summary how you get to your numbers, and this should be realistic, then it should be no problem. Then you can make up some numbers, let's say like this, and should not be an existing one. But realism is something which is important there too, of course.
Okay, and regarding the judges, you said that, well, before, that we have to think about them as investors, right? But like any kind of investor, or?
As far as I know, in the new rules, there's that you define what the judges are for the business plan presentation. But for this question, I would like you to add, take the rules tracker or the rules tool and address the question there again. That's something for Rafaela.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you. Do we have more questions? One here.
Hello.
Hello.
So in the BOM there will be no costs.
Yeah.
Okay, and in the CBOM there will be the costs.
Yeah.
And the currency will not be in US dollars.
No,
It will
only
be in
euro.
Okay, that's
Only
cool.
euro, and if you a team from abroad, you have to explain how you do the exchange rate. It's the same for the cost explanation file. You say, okay, my exchange rate was 1.10 US dollar per euro, or I don't know, 40 Taiwanese dollar for 1 euro, and then.
Okay, I understand. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. There is another one here.
Thank you. I have a question about the procedure of the cost and manufacturing event. There will be two parts, BOM discussion and cost understanding.
Yeah.
Will this be clearly divided, or will this be like this? Do you have this part in the BOM? Show it to me, and then there will be questions about the cost understanding of this specific part, or will this be clearly divided?
Normally, I would say we want to divide it. I would guess for next year we will try to divide it. This is something, because it is new, it could be that there will be a change for the next year, but normally we want to say 20 minutes for the discussion part 1 and 20 minutes for the discussion part 2. Because in the past we already have 10 minutes for the real case, and it's the same separate, should be there. If you start with this or that, I would guess it would be always better to start with part 1, part of the BOM, and after that you have the questions together to the new parts.
Okay,
This is something we are planning to do.
So the cost understanding discussion won't refer necessarily to the parts that will be discussed in the BOM.
No, it must not be the same parts, but
Okay.
of course if they see something in the CBOM, yeah, this is something made other way around, as it would be normal for a mass production, then there could be a related question here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question?
Thank you. Do we have more questions?
No? Okay.
Not at the moment. Okay, then, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sebastian.
Thank you.